Hello and welcome to Kettle and Bones, where we make really delicious, really healthy food. And you can too. Today we're making another one of those items that opens the door to a lot of foods you might have thought were incompatible with a low-carb diet. I think you're going to be surprised by some of the things we're able to recreate with these. Let's get right to it. Today we're making savory keto wraps. Let's get cooking. These wraps begin with eggs. I've seen variations on this sort of recipe that ask you to use egg whites only, but we're going to use the whole eggs. It makes the finished product just a little richer and denser, and we're leaving in all the nutrition that these eggs bring. On a high-fat, low-carb diet, the goal is to eat smaller, more filling meals, and a richer, fuller wrap is just what we want. I'm making a fairly small batch today, so 4 eggs will do it. We're going to beat these eggs like they owe us money, and now we're going to add our next ingredient. Coconut flour. I know, it sounds weird. Just stay with me. Next, we're adding a tiny bit of baking powder, probably about half a teaspoon. Let's give that a quick mixin'. Now we're going to start streaming in some cold water, just a little bit at a time. What we're going for here is a batter that is thicker than water, but much, much thinner than something like a pancake batter. When I add it to the hot pan, I want to be able to swirl it around very easily, and we're going to experiment with exactly that cooking technique here very shortly. If you've ever made crepes at home, we're going for a similar kind of consistency. Now we're going to season our batter. Right now it may smell vaguely coconutty from the coconut flour, but the finished product really won't have much of that. It will take on the taste and smell of whatever you season it with. These are savory wraps we're making, so I'm starting with cayenne pepper, some smoked paprika, garlic powder, onion powder, and cumin. We're going to give that a thorough mixing, breaking up any clumps of spices or coconut flour that may remain. And with that, our batter is ready to go. The most challenging part of making these wraps is the technique required to cook them. There are a couple things that will help us succeed. First, you'll need your non-stickiest non-stick pan. Obviously, the size of your pan is going to dictate the size of the wrap that you get. I'm going to get about 8-inch soft taco-sized wraps using this pan, but if you have a large pan and burner to put it on, you could get big old burrito-sized wraps too. Up to you. So here is the technique for administering the batter. You want to fairly quickly pour in a ladle or spoonful and then swirl it in the pan so that it evenly coats the bottom before it really cooks much at all. If you're too slow, you'll have most of the batter cook at one edge of the pan and the rest will be too little to cover the other side. With regards to the amount of batter to put in your pan, obviously that depends on the size, so you're going to have to experiment and sort of find your zone with the spoon or ladle that you're using. I know with this red one, I can fill it to just about half a centimeter from the top and get the right amount of batter for this size pan. We're going to let this cook for a bit on one side, usually no more than 5 minutes, over medium heat. The second thing that really helps these turn out right is a good, thin, relatively stiff yet soft silicone spatula. You need to be able to get under these as they cook to gently flip them. The better your tools are, the better your wraps are going to come out. As we get closer to being able to turn this, I'm going to take my spatula and just sort of loosen the edges, making sure nothing is stuck to the pan. For the actual flip, here's what I like to do. I actually blow a thin, steady stream of air very gently underneath the lifted edge of the wrap. This helps to lift it up as well as to cool it, so I can ever so gently grab it with my fingers and just lift and drop away from me. Now it needs just about 1 minute to cook the other side, and it's done. With both sides cooked, these will slide right out of a good non-stick pan. Let's make another one. Once again, there's the scoop and the pour, and it's a good one. I'm going to tell you right now, be patient and give yourself permission to make some mistakes here and learn from them. This isn't an incredibly difficult thing to master, but it can be tricky to get consistently good, intact wraps. Full disclosure, this was the first one I attempted today. It stuck a little in the very middle and ended up tearing to the point that I couldn't really make a taco or burrito or sandwich wrap on this, but this is still very, very usable, so don't throw these away if they do tear. Especially in later episodes, we'll be making some dishes with these that don't require them to be entirely in one piece. Stay with us for those. Let's crank out a few more. Once again, loosening the edges with the spatula, gently blowing air underneath, lift, and drop. So hopefully this illustrates the technique enough for you to start getting good at these yourself. These wraps are another one of those staple items that I always like to have made every week, similar to our crisp bread crackers or cloud bread. Having these in the fridge just makes it easy to throw together a quick meal or snack that is easy to make and filling enough to keep you on the wagon, even when you're craving foods that might be traditionally kind of junky. On that note, let's get to the fun part. Let's see what we can make with these beauties. Tell you what, as an added challenge, I'm not even going to make another run to the store for this. I'm just going to use what's already in the fridge. Come on, baby, let's spin that wheel. I'm ready. We included some savory seasonings, paprika, cumin, garlic, etc. in our wraps, so these should be great in pretty much any savory capacity. I'm thinking sandwich wraps or, maybe something in the Tex-Mex vein. Okay, I'm going to start with 2 of our wraps, and it's okay if we use some of the imperfect ones here. This one has a tear, but that won't really matter. I'm starting with some shredded cheddar and Monterey Jack cheese. Use cheese from a block you shred yourself. Don't use pre-shredded packaged cheeses. The packaged stuff has starch and other anti-caking agents to keep it from clumping together in the bag. You don't need those extra additives, and it causes it to not melt quite so nicely, so just make a habit of shredding your own stuff. Next, we're adding some delicious filling. I'm using leftover grilled chili lime chicken from Series 1, Episode 9. This is a great option if you made that dish and you had leftovers. I'm spooning probably 3 or 4 ounces into each wrap. We're going to add a little more cheese on top of the chicken. Having cheese above and below will help to sort of glue everything together. Now, I'm adding some enchilada sauce. You can buy canned or jarred enchilada sauce, of course, but I've noticed that, like so many other prepared foods, they often contain extra sugars, starches, and preservatives, so this sauce is one that I made myself. It actually turned out really well, really spicy. It's essentially a little chili powder, dry roasted in the pan. You could use our chili paste too. A little oil, some other spices to taste. You know what? Let's do an enchilada episode. We'll do one. Pinky promise. We'll do the wraps, fillings, sauces, finishes, A to Z. So keep your eyes peeled for that. For today, just a nice Tex-Mex red sauce or salsa would do great in these. For now, we're going to carefully roll these up, placing them seam down on an oven-safe plate. And you've had enchiladas before. We're going to hit them with cheese and sauce again until there isn't a square millimeter on them that isn't an absolute explosion of flavor. Now, these go in the oven at 350 degrees Fahrenheit or 177 degrees Celsius for about 20 minutes. Okay, while we wait, what could we do with this one? I'm thinking sandwich wrap, so I've placed it in a taco holder thingy to make assembly easier. Why don't we do a French steak sandwich? This is simply organic mayo mixed with Dijon mustard. Easy. How about some alfalfa sprouts for a nice, fresh, mildly nutty crunch? On that same note, I'm adding some fresh slices of cucumber, very crisp and very healthy. Now, let's start to make this rich and indulgent. I'm adding some crumbled chèvre cheese here. You might remember this from our almond flour quiche episode. This is a sharp, salty, tangy French goat's milk cheese. Next, let's layer on some slices of juicy, medium-rare steak. This is grilled flank steak from a previous meal. This was seasoned only with salt, pepper, and fresh rosemary, so this should fit just fine here. On top of that, I'm going to add another layer of the Dijon mayo sauce for extra flavor and moisture. And if you've been watching Kettle and Bones for a while now, this will be no surprise. Let's add a sprinkling of fresh scallions. And finally, some freshly ground black pepper. And let me see if I can slice this without absolutely destroying it. Easy, easy. How about that, huh? A delicious French-inspired steak sandwich wrap. What else? What can we do next? I know. Why don't we go to a country just around the bend? Let's do an Italian-themed wrap. We'll start with some green basil pesto, and let's add some fresh spinach leaves. Now let's nestle in some slices of mozzarella. For the meat, I'm adding some Italian chicken sausage that I sliced the long way and grilled in the pan on medium heat for just about 2 minutes each side. Next, we're going for Italian here, so how about some fresh tomato slices? And I really like olives, so I'm adding some green olives for a nice salty punch. And last but not least, we're going to finish this like we finish most of our Italian dishes, with a drizzle of olive oil, a few turns of the pepper grinder, a sprinkle of crushed fresh basil, and some finely grated Parmigiano Reggiano. All right, game time. Time to slice. And there it is. Nice. The sausage is savory, the veggies are fresh and tasty. I haven't taken a bite yet, but I bet that I don't care the wrap is super low carb. Let's check in on our enchiladas. Oh yeah, these are looking nice. The cheese on top is melty, the sauce is all cooked nicely. These are ready and done. That's looking amazing. Let me see if I can slice these without messing them up. That looks delicious, but believe it or not, I think these can be made better by Salvadoran crema, or any other Central or South American crema or sour cream. How about some freshly torn leaves of cilantro? And the rest of those scallions. A squeeze of lime juice here would be entirely appropriate as well, if you choose. And these are done. I think I said this in the cloud bread episode, but I feel it warrants repeating today. Look me in the eye and tell me that if this was a typical meal for you, you'd still feel deprived and restricted in your diet. I don't think so. This is real food, and with a stack of wraps already done and waiting in the fridge, it was real easy to put together. Stay with Kettle and Bones for more great, nutritious, low-carb recipes, including many more that will use these wraps in ways you probably never imagined. Sure, this was a nice 101 level intro to these wraps, but the masterclass will knock your socks off. But for now, just enjoy your savory keto wraps.